right, welcome back to the Sam Sorbo Show. I'm your host, Sam Sorbo. We're going to talk about critical race theory. And I love this because here is an example of somebody standing up. And what we're seeing also up in Canada, the truckers who are saying, no. I love what I'm feeling out there right now is sort of a groundswell of the average person who's just not going to take it anymore. And so I have a great example of that for you. And it ties into the truckers. It ties into Joe Rogan on Spotify, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit with my husband. Kevin's going to come on the show in a little bit. So, but first, this came across also from Not the Bee. And it's a guy named Nick Freitas, or Freitas. He's a Republican member of the Virginia House of Delegates. He's kind of sick and tired, frankly, of all of the demonizing of people on the right. It's just like, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's just this tendency now that if you consider yourself to be on the right, then you're a bad person, just right off the bat. Then you have more to prove, right? Whereas if you're on the left, it's sort of like, and by the way, this is not my assumption, but sort of in the general public, there's just this nastiness, which frankly, I don't want to say this, but it must emanate from the left because the left so easily demonizes people. Is that weird? It's like this self-fulfilling, it's not self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like this I know you are, but what am I? Kind of thing. It's weird. And I haven't gotten my head around the whole, it's a perversion and it's on purpose. And I'm still working to get my head around the whole thing. All right. He's tired of being called a racist every time he disagrees with some left-wing policy. It's like the moment that you disagree, then the name calling starts. And the reason for that is because they have no better argument. They have no better way to win the argument. So they want what they want, and they have very little evidence to support it. And so they just call you names. Also, it's very effective because then all of a sudden you're defending against whatever the name calling is, and you're not actually focusing on the argument, on the debate of whatever the policy is. And in fact, this is one of the things that we learn when we teach debate. I'm sure you guys know I ran a couple of debate clubs and brought my kids up sort of through speech and debate clubs. And there's a whole etiquette that's involved in proper debate. And it focuses on not just get your facts together and organize them so that you can present a reasoned debate, but also make sure you don't demonize the individual you're debating. This is something that I've said for many decades now. I never argue the person, I argue the issue. Which, yeah, it makes me seem argumentative because I will argue the issue, but it never goes personal because it's not personal. It's about the issue to me. And it ought to be to everyone. But unfortunately, we're now living in a culture where our culture and our schools have made it all emotional. And when it's emotional and not policy, it devolves very quickly into personal attacks. All right. So he got up in front of his colleagues and he gave them a little piece of his mind. And I want to play you this clip because I thought that the speech was just great. So have a listen and then come back to me.
Almost every day, someone on the other side of the aisle either gets up and either subtly or comes right out and suggests that if you don't agree with them on policy, well, then you're not a Christian, you're a sexist, you're a bigot, you're a racist. But the moment Someone actually stands up and says, wait a second, no, I'm not going to accept that. If you want to debate me on the merits of our particular policies, I am happy to have that discussion. But the moment you claim, with no evidence other than we don't agree on a particular policy position, the moment you claim that that makes us racist or sexist or bigoted, Mr. Speaker, I've got news. This was tried during the election cycle. You had a lot of parents coming to their local elected officials asking questions about what was going on in their schools. And the initial response was, oh, it's not there. And then when they saw evidence that it was, based off of what their kids were coming home and saying to them, and they went back and reissued the concern, then they got told, oh, well, then you must be a racist. Because that has been the repeated narrative coming from certain members of the other side of the aisle. And there's been a lot of times where we've sat here politely and just took it. Mr. Speaker, not this time. I'm tired of it. My constituents are tired of it.
All right, well, what'd you think of that? It's pretty good. He's pretty strong. And if you saw the video, like he's a well-groomed, bearded, mustached guy. I mean, he looks like somebody you don't necessarily want to meet in a back alley under unfortunate circumstances. He totally looks like a tough guy. So I just love how staunch he is. And we have to stop falling into traps. You're not wearing a mask, therefore you hate people. No, I'm not anti-mask. I'm pro-face. Sorry, I love that one. I love that one. We have to stop playing the games because they are childish, because they are emotional. And we have to figure out how to not get snookered into that. And I like the fact that he said, you're impugning me before we even, say good morning, basically. You're impugning me because I put an R after my name. How dare you? How dare you make terrible assumptions about me? But that's what the left does, you see. Unfortunately, I do it too. Somebody has a D after their name. I don't know, man. Look, to me, it's a very simple equation. If you like killing babies, I find you suspicious. And unfortunately, Democrats can't get away from being married to Planned Parenthood. I don't know how they can distance themselves because the party is so in lockstep, and I mean that, with Planned Parenthood and abortion. So entirely like this, like besties. I don't know how you can get away. Look, you call yourself an independent, great. Now I know we can dialogue. But it's like, I mean, it's a terrible thing. This is why we don't negotiate with terrorists, because terrorists want you dead. So where's the compromise? You want to live, terrorist wants you dead. How do you compromise? All right, we'll leave it there for just a minute, but I will be right back after a break.